John Wayne Gacy wasn't just another name on the long list of serial killers. He was the embodiment of duality, a walking contradiction, a man who could make children laugh as a party clown, shake hands with political figures, and then, under the darkness of night, torture and murder young men with a detached calmness. 33 lives ended because of him, 33 young boys and men silenced, their dreams buried beneath the very house where he entertained guests. To understand John Wayne Gacy is to stare into the deepest pit of human depravity and ask the haunting question, how does someone become a monster in human skin? Gacy's journey into darkness didn't start with murder. It began with pain. Born in 1942 in Chicago to a working-class Polish Irish family, he was the second of 3 children. His father, a man hardened by alcohol and a sense of masculine pride, saw John as weak. He belittled him, beat him, and called him names: sissy, mama's boy, worthless. The emotional abuse ran deep, even when young Gacy was struck by a swing at age 11 and developed a blood clot in his brain. His father showed no sympathy. Gacy carried the weight of inadequacy from a young age. His need for validation, for being seen as good enough, was like a fire that burned silently inside him. His life became a performance, and every performance needs an audience. Despite the abuse, Gacy tried to be the perfect son. He joined the Boy Scouts, volunteered, even ran errands for neighbors. But no matter how much he tried, the warmth he craved from his father never came. As he grew older, that need for approval mutated into something darker. After dropping out of high school, Gacy bounced between jobs and enrolled in business school. He married, had children, and built a life that looked respectable on the outside. He was thriving. He opened a successful construction business, became involved in the community, and played the lovable character Pogo the Clown at local events. But beneath the painted smile was a festering hunger for power, for control, for the dominance he never had as a child. The cracks in his mask began to show in the 1960s. He was convicted of sexually assaulting a teenage boy and served time in prison. His wife divorced him. His father died while he was locked up. That news destroyed him. He would never win the approval he spent his entire life chasing. When Gacy was released, he vowed to rebuild himself, to become untouchable. And for a while, it seemed he did. He bought a house in a quiet suburb, ran his business, and again integrated himself into society. But what society saw was the carefully crafted outer shell of a man who was already descending into psychopathy. The first murder came in 1972. A young man Gacy brought home for sex allegedly threatened him, and Gacy responded with brutal violence. He stabbed the boy to death in a panic, but what shocked him was how he felt afterward. Not guilt, not horror, but something close to relief, even satisfaction. In killing, he had felt powerful, like he was finally in control. That first murder was the key that opened the door to his hidden world. And once the door opened, it never closed. Over the next 6 years, Gacy's double life grew darker. By day, he was the cheerful contractor, neighbor, and local Democratic Party volunteer. By night, he was a predator. He targeted teenage boys, many of them runaways or hitchhikers. He'd lure them to his house with the promise of a job or quick cash. Some he simply charmed with his friendly demeanor. They never saw the trap being set. Inside his home, he had a routine: drinks, a game, sometimes magic tricks. One of his favorites was showing off a pair of handcuffs, pretending it was part of his clown act. He'd lock himself up, then escape easily. When he handed the cuffs to the boys, they'd try and fail. That's when he'd smirk and say chillingly, "The trick is, you have to have the key." What followed was unspeakable. He sexually assaulted them, beat them, tortured them, and strangled them, often using a tourniquet-like device he called his rope trick. And when it was over, he buried many of them in the crawl space beneath his house, the space where the dead lay beneath the feet of the living. When he ran out of room, he dumped bodies into the Des Plaines River. But despite the rising number of disappearances in the area, Gacy remained untouchable. People liked him. Police didn't suspect him. He had built his mask too well. He was part of the local community, photographed with politicians, and even hosted barbecues where neighbors walked over the very ground hiding dozens of corpses. He kept trophies from his victims, items like watches, wallets, even their clothing, each a reminder of the control he had, of the lives he stole. And yet, as time went on, he grew reckless. The compulsion became stronger, the murders more frequent, He was spiraling. In December 1978, everything changed. 15-year-old Robert Peast vanished after telling his mother he was going to speak to a contractor about a job. That contractor was John Wayne Gacy. When police began investigating, they realized this wasn't Gacy's first time being accused of crimes against young men. They placed him under surveillance, and what they found was unsettling. Gacy began unraveling, drinking heavily, staying out late, and ranting to officers trailing him. He knew the walls were closing in. Finally, a search warrant gave police access to his house, and what they found was pure horror. The stench in the crawl space, the remains of bodies long hidden, the belongings of missing boys, it all came together. Gacy was arrested, and during his confession, he spoke with chilling detachment. 33 boys, most buried in the crawl space, a few in the river. Some, he claimed, were just asking for it. He showed no remorse, only pride in how long he had gotten away with it. The trial in 1980 drew nationwide attention. Gacy's lawyers tried to argue insanity, claiming he had multiple personalities and that Pogo the Clown was responsible, but the evidence was overwhelming. The jury took only 2 hours to sentence him to death for 14 years. He sat on death row, painting clowns and religious scenes. Even there, he maintained an aura of arrogance. When asked how he felt about the murders, he'd shrug or deflect. In his mind, he was still in control. On May 10, 1994, John Wayne Gacy was executed by lethal injection. His final words, "Here's my ass," were defiant, almost mocking, as if even in death, he wanted the last laugh. But the story doesn't end there. Gacy left behind more than just victims. He left behind a society forever changed. The idea that a man so ordinary looking, so involved in his community, could be one of the worst serial killers in American history shook the nation's trust. He wasn't a monster hiding in shadows. He was at your child's birthday party. He wasn't the creepy stranger. He was the guy next door who shoveled your driveway. To understand Gacy is to understand the mask. He created an identity so convincing that even his closest friends never suspected the horrors beneath. He knew how to manipulate, how to blend in, how to charm. That's what made him so terrifying, not just the murders, but the ease with which he wore his disguise. It forces us to look differently at charisma, at smiles, at the roles people play. So why did Gacy become what he did? Was it the abuse, the repressed sexuality, the desperate need for control? All of it played a role. But in the end, it was Gacy who made the choice again and again to kill. He didn't snap. He didn't lose control. He exercised it. Over and over, he chose to become the executioner of innocence. Understanding him doesn't excuse him, but it helps us see the red flags we ignore. The dangers of unchecked trauma, the lies behind charming masks. Gacy's legacy is not just a story of horror, it's a warning that evil often walks among us wearing a smile. And if we don't pay attention, it will keep smiling, right until it strikes again.